The termination letter made no sound as it slid across the glass. Across from me, Jaya flinched as if the paper itself had struck her. Her eyes, which were usually kind, looked wounded. Outside, the city produced a distant wail of sirens, a sound that was becoming common in recent days. I ignored it and focused on the task. "Please, Yuma, my son." Her voice was a choked whisper. She broke professional protocol by mentioning her son Leo and his critical need for health insurance. This was a predictable, emotional appeal. I cut her off before she could continue. "Viridia is an organism, Jaya. To survive, it must shed unhealthy cells. My job isn't to weigh personal costs, it's to ensure viability." I glanced at my monitor where a company memo flashed. It concerned Project Chimera, mentioning a final lockdown drill had been cancelled. CEO Viridian was already en route to an off-site extraction point. The information was just another logistical update in my day. On the wall behind Jaya, a polished plaque celebrated our success. Viridia Solutions, U.S. Department of Defense Contractor of the Year, Biometric Security Division. We were a vital part of the nation's security apparatus. Unhealthy cells could not be tolerated. Jaya said nothing more. She stood numbly and began to pack a small cardboard box. She placed a framed photo of her son inside, then a small office plant with yellowing leaves. The wail of sirens grew louder, a chorus of rising panic from the streets below. That sound always reminded me of my father. I remembered the day his own firm collapsed. He had been a man ruled by loyalty, an emotion that became a fatal liability. He refused to lay off people he considered friends, and the entire structure came down on him, on us. The stress of his failure stopped his heart. I learned from his mistake. Emotion was a sickness. A low, powerful tremor vibrated through the tower, a deep shudder that came from the building's foundation. Then came a deafening clang as heavy metallic shutters slammed down over every window in my office. The panoramic view of the city was gone, replaced by solid steel. The building's emergency protocol engaged, locking down all external access. At the same moment, the city lights visible through the thin slats flickered and died. We were sealed inside. The noise from the city shifted from sirens to a bedlam of screams and crashing metal. Through the slats I could see the chaos. People were running, being pulled down by others, then rising again to attack. The main power grid failed. My office was plunged into darkness for 3 seconds before the emergency lights activated. Everything was bathed in a hellish red glow. An automated voice, calm and metallic, spoke from invisible speakers. Bio-contamination protocol initiated. All floors on lockdown. My mind began a tactical analysis of the new situation. I was on the 68th floor. Resources included bottled water in the mini-fridge and several high-protein bars in my desk drawer. My sole companion was Jaya. I looked at her, and she was no longer a terminated employee. Her intimate knowledge of the building's personnel, every name and office number, was a significant intelligence asset. She stared back at me, her face pale in the red light. Her panic was slowly giving way to a cold terror. I could see the calculation in her eyes. She was looking at the man who had just tried to ruin her life, and she was recognizing that my brutal, calculating nature was now our single greatest hope for survival. Staying here was a death sentence. We had to align. Our silent assessment was shattered by a wet, percussive banging against the reinforced glass of the office suite entrance. We both turned. It was Marcus, the floor's security guard. Jaya knew him by name. His eyes were shot through with burst black veins that stained the whites a dark, ugly color. He was relentlessly smashing his own head against the glass, and each impact left a smear of blood. CEO Viridian was gone, but his office was on the 75th floor. It was a hardened sanctuary with an independent communications suite, our only chance to contact the outside world. The helipad was on the roof, the only viable exit. I picked up a heavy glass award from a shelf, testing its weight in my hand. The CEO's office. We're going up. Now. Jaya looked at the bloody, unrecognizable thing that was once Marcus. She saw that the person she knew was gone. The old world's rules were a liability. She reached into her box, took out the photograph of her son, and shoved it into her pocket. She left the box with the plant and the rest of her former life on the floor. She gave a single, sharp nod. We stepped out of the office together into the darkened, red-lit hallway. Our sanctuary was behind us, and any hope of waiting for rescue was gone. We had made an unspoken pact to climb. My flashlight beam found nothing but empty space where the next flight of stairs should have been. The concrete was a jagged wound, spilling rebar and wire into the darkness below. A fine gray powder coated every surface. Jaya leaned over my shoulder, her own light trembling. "Collapsed," she whispered. "Floor 66. The whole section." My building schematics, memorized years ago, were now a liability. They promised a clean descent. The reality was a chasm. I pulled up the tower's layout on my phone. The screen, a small bright square in the gloom. The sky bridge connecting to the west tower was on floor 60. It was our only way down that bypassed this break. The access corridor, however, was sealed by automated fire doors. Jaya pointed a finger at the screen. "I remember the safety briefings. Those doors are tied into the security nexus for this block. They're biometrically sealed. We'll break the lock." It's a maglock, reinforced with steel bolts. It would take a blowtorch and an hour. The noise would bring every one of them from 10 floors up. She took the phone from my hand, her fingers swiping with a new confidence. "The system requires a level 4 bioscan. An executive thumbprint." The execs on this block were Arthur Chen in marketing and Isabella from legal. My plan shifted. Brute force was inefficient. Her intelligence was a better tool. We moved through the darkened suites, our footsteps crunching on glass. Chen's office was a wreck, the window shattered, a cold wind pulling at papers on the floor. We found Isabella in the main conference room, her body pressed against the glass wall, fingers leaving bloody streaks as she clawed at the unyielding surface. Her eyes were black pits. We located Arthur near his old office. He was bumping his head against the wood door with a soft, persistent rhythm. He wore the same tailored suit from our last budget meeting, now stained down the front. The plan was simple and harrowing. I moved first, using a heavy leather chair to pin him against the wall. He thrashed with a strength that was not human, a clicking sound coming from his throat. Jaya, her face a pale mask, grabbed his hand and forced his thumb onto the small scanner beside the fire door. The device glowed green for a second. A loud hiss echoed in the hallway as the bolts retracted. I kicked the chair away and slammed the heavy door shut behind us, cutting off the sound of Arthur's rage. Jaya was breathing in ragged gasps, her back against the cool metal. I looked at her, seeing past the HR manager to the asset she was becoming. She was a tactical resource. After days of slow descent through silent offices and service stairs, we were low on water and the protein bars were gone. We reached the fortified entrance to the trading floor. The air was different here, thick with the smells of sweat and garbage and stale liquor. A loud generator powered strings of temporary lights, casting long, dancing shadows. Desks and cabinets were piled high, creating a maze of barricades. Dozens of survivors milled around inside, their faces illuminated by the harsh light. A man in a stained dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up met us at the gate. He was fit, radiating a coiled energy. "Welcome to the pit," he said with a wide, predatory grin. "I'm Jax." He granted us entry. The place was a market of desperation. A woman traded a gold watch for a bottle of water. Two men argued over a can of beans. I tried my encrypted satellite phone, but the screen just showed a searching signal. Jax laughed, a sharp, barking sound. "Things useless in a steel Faraday cage like this. You need a clean line of sight to the sky, genius." This was not a sanctuary. It was another kind of trap, run by a more sophisticated predator. We found a man huddled in a corner, his face pale with exhaustion. He introduced himself as Rob, a data analyst. He watched Jax with fearful eyes. He saw us looking at the schematics on my phone. He spoke in a low voice. "He's hoarding everything. I can get you a layout of the maintenance shafts, a way around all this. Just take me with you. I have to get back to my kids." Before we could finalize our plan with Rob, the low noise from outside the barricades grew into a roar. A new wave of them, a horde drawn by the light and sound, slammed against the piled desks. The lights flickered. The generator sputtered. Jax's face tightened. He turned to me, his friendly mask gone. "You, Luvu, I need more power. Go down to the sub-basement and get the chief engineer to divert auxiliary power to my grid. Her name is Bella. I hear she knows you. Fired her whole crew 3 months back. Should be a fun reunion." It was not a request. He had men with makeshift clubs flanking him. Leaving was no longer a choice. It was a suicide mission, and we were taking Rob with us. The maintenance shaft was a narrow metal tube, completely dark. Our only light came from my phone. The air was thick and smelled of oil. Every sound was magnified, the scrape of our clothes, our own breathing. Rob was behind me, his breath coming in shallow pants. Then there was a sharp crack of metal, a wet tearing sound, and a scream that filled the small space. My light found him. His leg was twisted at a terrible angle, caught and mangled in the blades of a ventilation fan he had not seen. His screams were continuous now, echoing down the shaft in both directions. "He's a lost asset," I said to Jaya, my voice flat. "The noise is a beacon. We leave him." I grabbed her arm to pull her toward the next access hatch. She fought me, trying to get back to Rob, her hands scrabbling at the bent fan blades. From the darkness ahead, we heard it, the frantic clicking of the redundancies. They were coming fast. Rob's screaming stopped. He looked past us, his eyes wide with a final, terrified clarity. "My kids," he gasped. "Tell them Gio." He used his one good leg to kick out, shoving Jaya backward into me. We tumbled through the hatch just as they reached him. I slammed the heavy metal door, cutting off the sounds. Jaya was on her hands and knees in the narrow corridor, shaking. I offered no comfort. Her survival was validation of the choice. My choice. We reached the sub-basement entrance, a heavy gray door set in a concrete wall. It was cold and damp, the air smelling of ozone and oil. Jaya was rocking back and forth slightly, her arms wrapped around herself. She was whispering, "Not a viable asset. The noise is a beacon. Lost asset." She was reciting my words, my philosophy. Hearing the cold calculus that had kept me alive manifest as a mantra of trauma in someone else felt wrong. It was a variable I had not calculated. The image of another person, broken by a ruthless worldview, surfaced a memory I kept buried. My father, sitting in his favorite chair in our empty house, his face gray, his spirit rotted away by the cost of his loyalty. I broke the silence between us. My father owned an architectural firm. Jaya stopped rocking. She looked at me, her eyes empty. When the market collapsed, he refused to lay anyone off. He called them family. He bled his accounts dry to keep paying them, and they left him the moment a better offer came along. The firm went bankrupt. We lost everything. His heart gave out a month later. I leaned against the cold concrete wall. Emotion is a fatal liability. My father chose loyalty over survival. He rotted from the inside out. I will not. It was not an apology. It was a confession, the core data of my operating system. For the first time, Jaya looked at me and did not see a monster. She saw the reason the monster was built. The shared, bleak honesty gave us the strength to turn and face the heavy steel door. Jaya pushed herself off the floor and stepped to the intercom, her back straight. She pressed the button, her voice steady and clear, leaving me out of the conversation entirely. "Bala, this is Jaya Roulette from HR. I have your file." A burst of static was the only reply. "It says your husband was a firefighter. He died on the job 10 years ago. It says you volunteer for the search and rescue auxiliary. You help people, Bala. Rob from accounting is dead. He died trying to save us in the vents. There are others trapped on the trading floor. Jax is holding them. They need help." Silence stretched. I watched her, this woman I had fired, using the intimate data of a personnel file as a key to unlock a fortress. It was a masterful, empathetic intrusion. A metallic voice finally crackled through the speaker. The suits made this mess. Let the suits clean it up. I'm not helping Luvu. Jaya didn't hesitate. He's not in charge anymore. I am. He will do exactly what I tell him to. He will come to you, unarmed, through the B3 service hatch, and he will apologize. She looked at me. It was not a request. It was an order. I saw the logic. My authority was poison here. Hers was the only antidote. I found the small square hatch set low in the wall and pulled the lever. It opened onto a crawl space thick with cables and the smell of ozone. I got on my hands and knees and crawled into the darkness, my suit catching on exposed wires. Bala was waiting for me in a small, bright room filled with monitors and conduits. She held a heavy wrench, her face a mask of contempt. Her blue jumpsuit was stained with grease. I stood up, brushing dirt from my knees. I met her hard gaze. My decision to terminate your team was based on a flawed cost-benefit analysis. It failed to account for the human variable. It was an error. I apologize. She watched me for a long time, the wrench held tight in her grip. Finally, she nodded slowly. Jax has a panic disorder. Claustrophobia. It's in his medical records. I can't give him power, but I can vent the halon reserve into the trading floor. It's harmless, just displaces the oxygen for a few minutes before the scrubbers kick in. But the alarms, the gas, the sealed doors, it'll break him. We moved through the chaos Bala unleashed. Red lights flashed across the trading floor, casting everything in a bloody glow. A thick white gas swirled at our feet, and a piercing alarm screamed without pause. Jax was a cornered animal, his eyes wide, swinging a fire extinguisher at his own men, screaming about being trapped. His fragile empire had crumbled into raw panic. Nobody even saw us as we slipped through their broken barricades and climbed the service stairs. The path to the roof led through the main cafeteria. The vast space was completely dark except for the red exit signs. Dozens of bodies were scattered between the overturned tables and chairs. They were the burnouts. Desiccated husks collapsed in on themselves, their skin gray and tight like old paper. The silence in the room was absolute, a heavy blanket that smothered all sound. We moved slowly, stepping carefully over the inert forms. Jaya put a hand on my arm, stopping me. She pointed with her chin. Across the room, one of the husks twitched a single finger, a tiny, almost imperceptible movement. It was not fully dormant. We changed our path, moving in perfect sync, a single entity navigating a field of quiet death. We trusted each other's senses with our question, her sight guiding my steps. We burst through the rooftop door into a wall of wind and noise. Rain lashed down, cold and hard. In the center of the helipad, a black helicopter sat with its blades spinning in a deafening vortex. A man in a green flight suit and a helmet leaned out of the open door, yelling over the engine's roar. Orders are to extract one HVI, high-value individual. That's the CEO. Where is he? The stairwell door behind us groaned, a deep metallic sound of stressed steel. The horde was close. The pilot looked from my face to Jaya's, his expression impatient. He was looking for the highest-ranking officer. Jaya stepped forward, her voice rising in a desperate plea. Please, I have a son. His name is Leo. I have to get to my son. I put my hand on her shoulder and pushed her gently behind me. My own life, my relentless drive for survival, it all felt like a faulty calculation now. I saw my father's gray face, the man destroyed by loyalty. I saw Rob gasping about his kids. I saw Jaya, her fierce hope for her son. The logic was finally clear. Some assets are worth more than the system that values them. I pulled out my encrypted satellite phone. Here, with a clear view of the sky, it had 5 bars. My fingers moved across the screen with old, practiced efficiency. It was the work of seconds. One last transaction. I liquidated every offshore account, every hidden investment, every number that had defined my life, and wired it all to a new trust. I shoved the glowing screen into the pilot's face, the confirmed transaction clear even in the driving rain. The HVI has been redesignated, I yelled over the wind. She is now the asset. Her son is secure. I turned to Jaya. Her face was a blur of confusion and rain. This gets him a future, I said. That has value. I pushed her hard toward the helicopter. The pilot grabbed her arm and hauled her inside. The chopper lifted, its searchlight cutting a bright cone through the storm. I watched it rise, a dark shape against the black sky, until it was gone. The door behind me splintered, bursting open with the weight of bodies. I heard their clicking calls over the wind. I did not run. I calmly straightened the lapels of my ruined Zegna suit, bent down to pick up a length of steel rebar from the rooftop debris, and turned to face the oncoming tide. My actions were, for the first and last time in my life, completely, utterly, and fatally inefficient. I was finally free.